Alright, we're trying that fucking again. Swear on me mum, if it comes unplugged, I'm gonna shit on the floor. Everywhere.
Better be on camera. Cow.
On camera, even. Alright. 3, 2, 1. Hello. Cringe Crew Music Podcast Series number 2, covering the entire Radiohead discography. This is the finale for our series on Radiohead here, covering their final album up to this point, 2016 release, A Moon-Shaped Pool. I'm not familiar with this album at all. Only really heard the first track on the album, Burn the Witch. I remember when the music video for that dropped, and for whatever reason, I liked the song, just didn't want to listen to the rest of the album or anything else by Radiohead at that point, up until now. So, finally gonna get to listen to the whole thing. Before we get started, I have a very, very quick vinyl update. Picked up a couple records the other day. Got Denzel Curry's Imperial, some older stuff from him. It's a really good album. Check it out. I also picked up an album that we talked about on the previous music podcast, I believe, Burzum's Philosophim. I have to preface this by saying, fuck Varg Vikernes, fuck that guy, but this album's really good. Important piece of black metal history, I think. But yeah, fuck Varg Vikernes for real. All right, so that out of the way, I guess we can get started with the album. So, track number 1, Burn the Witch.
So, if this, you said this came out in 2016, it looks like it dropped earlier on than that, like earlier on than some other 2016 events. But otherwise, I'd say this was back to American politics, which I think is kind of crazy. There were a lot of like really strong phrases in there. So, like, stay in the shadows. This is a roundup. Burn the witches. Loose talk. Abandon reason. Shoot the messenger. Like, this felt super political with its lyrics, and I kind of wondered about halfway through if it wasn't regarding like the American election in 2016, just because it was super polarizing. But I think the song was really good. That musically it sounded solid. It was kind of hard to tell what was instruments and what was synth, which I thought was really cool. This did kind of remind me a little bit of like some more recent Coldplay stuff, just the progression of it. Which I don't think is necessarily bad, but just kind of interesting to start this one off.
Yeah, I like this one. I liked the like kind of return, I guess, to the somberness, the little like chaotic nature that they brought at the end there. I like that a lot. Their Genius page says that once again Radiohead has a long history with this song, and again, just they don't release anything until about 20 years after they write it. Which, I mean, you know, they just really like to perfect it as much as they can. But it's good. This is an interesting start to the album.
I really like the strings on this throughout the whole thing, that make up like a good bulk of the instrumental. And yeah, it's just, song's good. Not really a whole lot else to say about it. All right, so finally getting into stuff that I have not heard from this. So track number 2, Daydreaming.
Much like you said the last time, Conley, that we definitely returned to something somber. This felt more gentle than sad or grungy, though. Like, there's obviously some very sad emotions in here, but it just kind of was slow and relatively peaceful. I didn't mind it. It's just a very long track to get kind of nowhere.
Yeah, I feel a lot of like ambient kind of feel from this song, and I actually really am enjoying the like string and like other instruments that you hear in there. The one thing that I always feel like I recognize for or with Radiohead is their like varied use of their instruments and like the electronics and use of their instruments. So like Johnny Greenwood and some of the other members are just like insanely talented and can change how simple guitar sounds into insanely complex sampling, and it's astonishing to see them do like change their normal, what you would consider normal guitar sound, into this for the album. And it looks like on their Wikipedia that a lot of this, most of these strings and choir was performed by the London Contemporary Orchestra, which, god damn, they're literally having a orchestra play with them. I mean, Jesus Christ. That's intense, but it's good. I really like this one a lot, actually. It's very chill.
So it seems like this song is mostly about Tom's marriage, who at the time he'd been with this person for 25 years, and it was now coming to an end. So what I've gathered a lot about some of the tracks on this one is that the lyrics kind of are about that marriage ending. So I can pick up on some of that a little bit. I thought it was really cool how at the end the strings were kind of morphing into like sounding like someone snoring. It's really interesting. Yeah, song's good. I liked it. I liked it.
There's a spacecraft blocking out.
I really like the instrumentation on this one. There was a lot of distortion, a lot of like really simple instruments that they did like really creative and unique things with. I thought the piano was cool. Everything in the song just kind of flowed, but we're still in that like really slow, somber kind of calm feeling. The first half of the chorus also sounded super familiar to me. Like I feel like the cadence of it was taken straight from a different Radiohead song, but I couldn't place it. It was really jarring because I was like, did we already hear this one? We got really lost.
Yeah, I enjoy this one a lot too. This one continues the like ambient sound that the second one kind of had going there. I don't really have much else to add other than I'm enjoying this a lot. I shouldn't say a lot more than I expected, but I am enjoying this one a lot so far.
This was okay. I didn't dislike it, but there's nothing really about it that really kind of jumped out at me. It's all right. It's fine. All right. Case, I don't think I said what the name of that last track was. That was Dex Dark. Track number 4 is Desert Island Disc.
This one just didn't do a whole lot for me. There was a whole lot of like repetition, especially in the instrumentation. Nothing just jumped out. There was nothing really notable.
Yeah, it was a little different because it still had some kind of like ambient kind of notes, or not notes, like elements kind of slipped in like, a couple of times, but yeah, this one's also in a weird spot for me right now, but I still liked it, but it wasn't. I still like the past two, I think, more.
Yeah, kind of same as the last one. I didn't hate it, but didn't really stand out. It's just kind of okay. Something interesting though that I'm seeing in Genius here. Apparently, the name of this track comes from a BBC radio talk show program where celebrities have to name 8 songs that they would take with them to a desert island, and a few Radiohead tracks have been selected on this show in the past, so interesting. Okay, track number 5, Full Stop.
I very clearly spoke way too soon about repetition. Good Lord. He wrote 4 lyrics and then just repeated them for 6 minutes. Like, that was insane. The instrumentation was fine. I thought it was pretty on theme for the song, for the album. Like, I mean, I enjoyed the music, but God, just stop repeating yourself so damn much. Good Lord.
Yeah, I think it was the last part of the second verse, if you could call it a verse, I guess. Um, I'll use my one for the album. He says it's supposed to be "Take Me Back Again," and all I heard was "Take Me Back," and then just fade into nothingness. And I'm like, Tom, there are 4 more letters that go along with that vowel. Can you finish the word, please? It's not just ha. That aside, it was okay. I was okay with it at first, or I thought it was like just okay, and then like I'm not sure if it was like the second half or like the second third or the last third that there was this kind of like melody or like groove that kind of like kicked in that I started to really kind of enjoy. So I like this one too though.
Yeah, kind of the same for me. Like, I thought it started out like really slow, and then kind of near the second half, like I was kind of getting into the bass groove there a little bit. Song's all right, not bad. Okay, track number 6, Glass Eyes.
Another one that was just kind of boring. Like, it was sad. It was supposed to feel sad. I guess it's just like I want at any point in time this to pick up just the tiniest bit. Like you mentioned earlier at the start of this, Mike, Tom definitely needs a hug. And I get it. I mean, he's doing a really good job at conveying it. I think the song like really you felt his passion. I guess I'm kind of bored of it.
This felt almost like it would be good in a movie, like a good drama or something, like right after like a character dies or like someone's mourning something like this is just a soundtrack to a really sad fucking movie. And I guess that movie is Tom's life, question mark. I don't know. But I mean I did enjoy the more orchestral the piano. I did like the piano and the string sections, but it's just very very interesting. I know that I guess I've sometimes compared some of their music to other music scores, but this one to me just sounds like every song so far. I was like, I could hear this on a movie.
As much as I like some of Radiohead's slower songs, so far this just seems like a whole album where they just decided to just scale it down a whole bit, and so far I'm not super into it. I don't hate it, but it's just kind of It's fine, but like it's not my favorite so far. We'll see how I feel with the rest of the album. We're kind of getting close to halfway through, I guess. Yeah, we're about halfway through, so we'll see how I feel by the end, I guess. But so far, not impressing me. All right, track number 7, Identikit.
I really like the instrumentation on this one. I think this is exactly what I was asking for, and I said for the last 6 tracks or whatever that I was just getting bored of the sad. Instrumentation was really cool. There were a lot of really cool riffs, especially the guitar towards the end. I really like the way that it just kind of faded out and died. Still kind of repetitive, still pretty sad, but honestly, this was a whole lot better than anything else I've heard so far today.
Yeah, I like this. I did like this one a lot too. I think that I think this is definitely just an album of like all repetition of just repeating things over and fucking over again. I don't know if that background refrain was supposed to be like, I don't know, like was I supposed to be able to tell what the fuck he said? Because unless I saw the lyrics, there was no way in hell I was getting that. But I mean, I really enjoyed the instrumentation though. Honestly, I really did.
Yeah, finally the album's picking up a bit near the end. I really like this track. I especially like the like really weird guitar solo at the end. It was neat. Thought that was cool. But yeah, there was like one part earlier on where, of course, Tom classically cannot pronounce words, but we're used to it at this point. It's a feature. All right, track number 8. The numbers. The numbers, Mason. What do they mean?
What do the numbers mean?
There it is.
All right.
All right. I really loved the instrumentation on this one. I thought this was back to like all of the best parts of Radiohead in a track. There was different instruments at the beginning versus at the end. Very few like consistent pieces, and yet it all felt like one piece. I thought this was really, really cool. There were a lot of things that like incorporated in that I guess just fit, despite them feeling kind of abnormal. There were no like really repetitive sections to this. Like everything just kind of felt like it had its own place. I really enjoyed this one, but based on the rest of the album, that did feel kind of weird because all we've had for 8 tracks is repetition. The other part of this that I know this is going to sound weird, but this sounded like a Led Zeppelin song. I can't come up with the Led Zeppelin song, and I don't have a concrete reason as to why, but the entire time I'm listening to this, I just continue thinking, boy, this sounds like Led Zeppelin. I cannot come up with where, and once I hear that Led Zeppelin song, I'm going to shout it to myself that it's the numbers. But like I couldn't get past it, dude. I don't know where it is.
Yeah, I could see that. I definitely still I enjoyed this one a lot. I get the like still the ambient kind of feel, but they do kind of come back more to their like what I know Radiohead to be. This is also one of the few tracks I feel like Tom isn't nearly as subtle with his political stuff as he normally is. I feel like you know usually you kind of have to reach for some of his stuff, and this one's just kind of like we are of the earth. It's like, okay, well, that one's. Tell me how you really feel about it, Tom. It was good. I really enjoyed this one too.
Especially near the end, I got the feeling that this song would work great as like the end credits theme for any movie, basically. But yeah, I did like this one. I like this one a lot. Very, very blatant climate change bad help message going on, but yeah. Alrighty, track number 9, present tense.
This was just kind of another boring one for me. We turned around in a lot of things that I had positively for the last one. I mean, it was just repetitive and simple throughout the majority of the song. Like you mentioned, Conley, where there were like very overt, like it wasn't metaphorical. This one is just back to more metaphors and wondering what the hell Tom is talking about. And I don't know. It was just another one that I was just kind of bored with.
This one does go back to the being more similar to the the beginning tracks. I would say that I did like the acoustic guitar in this. I did like that, but overall it was okay. I wasn't super excited by it either.
Yeah, just kind of going back to another song that I didn't really hate, but I didn't really like it. It's fine. Apparently this song first came about back in 2009 and didn't get a studio version up until this album came out. So another one that the band was holding on to for a while. Yeah, song's just okay.
Yeah.
All right, track number 10, and this is a mouthful. Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Sailor, Rich Man, Poor Man, Beggar Man, Thief.
So the strings in this one made this feel big and bold and important, but I think this was another one that could be lost to a movie soundtrack and be background noise somewhere. I didn't mind it. It wasn't egregiously bad, but it also just nothing stands out again. I know I've said it 1,000 times now, but it's just boring.
This one feels like this whole album, I guess, just sort of not overuses, but is very focused around the orchestra that they have, the London Contemporary. They definitely focus a lot of the album around. Well, maybe not focus, but definitely utilize them as to their fullest abilities. um, I mean, I still liked it, but I will still say that I think overall, for me at least, I prefer Radiohead's instruments and their instrumentality over their lyricism.
So now that we're at the very end of the album, this has felt like just the soundtrack to any given movie. Honestly, like take any of these songs, put them as the end credits to movie, and it'll probably work. Nothing about this has really stood out to me. There's been maybe like one or two tracks that I thought were more than just okay. They were more than just fine, but again, still not really standing out. This being one of them. Again, did not hate it. Didn't really overly like it. It's just kind of in the middle. It's fine. So before we get into this next one, the final song, True Love Waits, there's a bit of a story about this one. This song was first played in 1995, and it's appeared in various live set lists since then. They tried to record it around the kind of OK Computer, Kid A, Amnesiac era, and then eventually scrapped it. And it never made it onto an album until now. There's been various versions of it kind of thrown around. There is a compilation, an unofficial compilation of Radiohead demos that they eventually did officially release, called Mini Discs Hacked. It is a 16.5 hour long album of just Radiohead demos that originally were leaked on Reddit, and the guy like traded them for some Beatles stuff, for unreleased Beatles recordings, and then made them available on Reddit and demanded a $150,000 ransom from Radiohead to not release them. And then the band was just like, fuck it, these exist, you can have them officially, here you go. And
what the fuck?
A version of this song appears in those demos.
Okay, then. Very
What the fuck.
okay.
Apparently this is was the most popular unreleased Radiohead song up until it was released, so we'll see if it lives up to that hype, I guess. So the final track on this album, number 11, True Love Waits.
I'll drown my belief.
It's crazy to me that this song is featured now instead of when it was written in 95?
Yeah.
This one felt massively like the end of a love story, right? There were some really questionable lyrics in here. To start off with, I'll drown my beliefs to have your babies. Does not indicate health to me. But otherwise, like, I think this was just the epitome of Tom needs a fucking hug. I didn't mind it. It was kind of a slow and somber end, but honestly, I did kind of enjoy it. It was slow, and it wasn't something that I would go out of my way for, but I do think it was really good, and it ended this album kind of nicely.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the Tom needs a hug kind of songs. Because the lyrics are depressing as shit, and so is the piano. But I also really like the piano, actually. Usually I'm not the biggest fan of the like more slower kind of songs with Tom's voice. Like, they're okay, but when he gets like this kind of slow, they're not my favorite. But I thought he was actually okay on this one. Overall, I really enjoyed it, but I'm also on the boat that I don't know why it would be on this album specifically. Like, I know you said it came out in the same like time frame of them actually releasing it, but I don't know. It just seems weird that it just seems weird to include it on this album. But I mean, I still really enjoyed it though.
So I'll say that this somewhat lives up to the hype that I've seen around it. It feels like at the moment a song that I'll probably appreciate more on subsequent listens, you know? Of course, as I mentioned at the beginning, this album, and especially this song here, seems to be about Tom's divorce that was going on at the time. He had divorced his wife of 23 years back in 2015. And then the following year, 2016, she actually passed away from cancer. So that kind of changes some of the lyrics here a bit, I suppose. An analysis of Radiohead songs using the Genius API has determined that this is their most depressing song. And yep, checks
Gasp.
out. Checks out.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the album, Moonshaped Pool. That's the whole thing. Wow. There are 2 more bonus tracks that we will not be listening to here. You can check those out if you want. Those are Ill Wind and Spectre. The last one there was made for the James Bond film of the same name, I believe. If you want more Radiohead stuff, there's plenty of compilation albums with various B-sides. OK Not OK for the OK Computer era, and Kid Amnesia for the Kid A and Amnesiac era. There is a remix album for The King of Limbs, as long as a live album that kind of reimagines the whole thing. Various EPs for different singles. A few of the band members have their own respective solo works. If you're into more electronic stuff, maybe check out what Tom York was doing. He has a couple of features on a couple of Flying Lotus songs that I actually really enjoy. I believe that both of the Greenwood brothers have their own solo albums and so on. So plenty of Radiohead related and adjacent things if you want more of this. As for ratings, oh boy, I don't know where to put this one. I think I kind of wanted to put this second to last, kind of halfway through us listening to it, but I'm kind of struggling now. I'm gonna think about where I want to put this and see if you guys have a final ranking.
Yeah, I can pretty confidently put this one last for me. I don't want to give this like I don't want to confidently say this is a bad album, right? But I guess that just like with Radiohead being so versatile through 8 other albums, even the stuff that I didn't like at least added a little bit more variety. And this one was just kind of slow and somber and boring throughout the vast majority. There were a couple upsides to it, like you mentioned, Mike. There were a couple of tracks that I did really like actually enjoy, but I don't see myself revisiting anything from this album. Even if I wanted to go out of my way for Radiohead, I think that there were other albums that I would visit first before ever coming back to a Moonshaped Pool. I can confidently say that I think this one was my least favorite.
Okay.
So I actually did enjoy this one. I don't know if I would come back to it specifically to try and like for a dedicated listening session, but I would definitely say that this is the kind of album that I would put on when I'm playing something like a game in the background. This has that ambient sound that I really enjoy for that kind of mood. But for just simply wanting to listen to an album, I'm probably not gonna come back to this one. But then again, that's me on some of these other ones too. So I also do think I have my ratings good.
Okay.
Much as I can.
So you're also sticking it at the bottom then, or maybe higher?
No, I'm actually gonna stick it smack dab in the middle of number 5.
Okay.
Because I still enjoyed it. I'll just go ahead and put this.
Yeah, if you just want to edit your list in Discord, I'll update my sheet. But yeah, I initially wanted to put this above Hail to the Thief and have it second to last, but there are songs off of Hail to the Thief that I would come back to. Like, as much as I did not like that album as a whole, there are individual tracks that I like on that album that I go back to. This album, I don't think I would go back to any album, any track on it at all. That's not to say that I hated it. I want to reiterate, I did not dislike this album at all. It's just maybe not a vibe that I would go for to kind of listen to casually. You know, if I'm gonna listen to this, it's gonna be for the whole experience, but I didn't really like the experience, if you get what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Not a bad album. As an artistic piece of work, I think it is very good, but it is not for me.
I'm with that. I there were a lot of times that we talked about through this series, either in the narrative of how things got made, or especially in like revisiting old tracks that they had been played live before. I think that there are a lot of ones specifically from this album that I think would be very cool live experiences.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That like maybe would give me a different perspective on it, but just to listen to it as is on the record, it just doesn't do anything for me. Again, it's not bad. It's just not something that I want personally.
Okay. Well, I guess before we wrap up here, now that we've done the entire discography, I guess just kind of get what your thoughts are on the band as a whole, having listened to everything, and if there's any particular songs or albums that you would go back to or have been going back to since we've done this series.
I think obviously like Radiohead is really good like creatively. I think that there are a lot of really unique sounds. They don't really sound like anybody else. Even the bits and pieces that do, you can very confidently say that anything we've listened to across all 9 albums now is confidently Radiohead. You're not confusing them with anybody else. But I think the way I feel about this album kind of relates to the rest of Radiohead, that I don't see myself adding any of their music to like my regular listening playlists. There were a lot that I could tell you that I enjoyed, but I know that like if I were to put them in a playlist, would skip to the next song to find something else that I'm enjoying more. They just don't hit a vibe that I typically go for in music. Really talented, really good. Some stuff that I really genuinely enjoyed. If I come back to anything, it'll probably be the In Rainbows album, just because it was percussive and bold and a little more upbeat. But realistically, I don't know if I'll revisit them again intentionally.
So yeah, I'd say that these guys are, I mean, they're insanely talented. They have worked their fucking ass off to get to being a internationally known group that also have their own solo projects that have done well. With the fact, it's also amazing because a lot of bands will never go their lives with one of their albums being called being under contention for quote unquote greatest album of all time, and Radiohead has such a dedicated fandom that they will fight over, like almost physically fight over which album they think is not only Radiohead's best, but also that one of those albums is the best of all time. I mean, this is a very influential band overall, but they're just not necessarily something that has been or probably will be in my daily rotation. I think that I probably would go back. I mean, since last week, I've spent this whole week basically just listening to Radiohead again. I've listened to like almost everything twice, trying to like, how much do I like this? Do I like this more than this one? And so many of them, I could just kind of move spaces on how I'm feeling that day or just what general mood I'm in. I'd honestly say that Kid A was my favorite album that we listened to, and that's probably the one that I would go back to and listen to, or at least something off of. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm insanely talented and really good, but not necessarily my, like, I guess, cup of tea.
So prior to doing this series, I had tracks off of OK Computer, Kid A, and Amnesiac in my daily rotation, and I was listening to those songs pretty much on a daily basis. Now that we've done this series, I've also added tracks from Pablo Honey, The Bends, In Rainbows, King of Limbs. Maybe like a track or two off of Hail to the Thief. I have a tendency to just, because I'm lazy, I put entire albums into my playlist, and if it's just a song that I don't like, I'll skip it, or if I notice that I'm skipping it a bunch, I'll eventually remove it. But oftentimes I'll just skip it. It's whatever. So yeah, I still listen to this band pretty regularly. I don't think I'm going to be adding anything off of Moonshaped Pool anytime soon, other than maybe Burn the Witch. That's like, I think, the only song off that whole album that you could just throw in a playlist and just kind of listen to. Everything else is just varying degrees of depressing or just not interesting. But yeah, now that I've listened to everything, I feel like I have a greater appreciation for where they started and then kind of how they've evolved over time. It was interesting to see that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's Radiohead. When I was kind of listing off, the various other side projects, I suppose it's worth mentioning that Tom has been involved in other bands. For a brief time, he was with a band called Atoms for Peace that included Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers, their producer, Nigel Godrich, Joey Waronker of Beck and R.E.M. as the drummer and percussionist, Mauro Rafasco. I probably did not pronounce that correctly. They released one album called Amok. I've been meaning to get around to that one. And they kind of did experimental rock, some electronic stuff. Currently, Tom is in a band called The Smile with Johnny Greenwood, and they were touring earlier this year, I believe, and they have one album out called A Light for Attracting Attention, I believe, and I think that they are working on a second album, potentially. So, if you want more Radiohead stuff, there you go. That's going to do it for us. I think the intention is to do another series of this, but with a different band. So once we figure out what band we're doing, there will be more. Yeah, we might as well just do it now.
Where are you leaning, Conley?
I mean, we both had the same idea, so I feel like it might be best if we just went with Bring Me the Horizon, since we both thought about it. It was already like first on our list, so I'm perfectly fine with that.
All right.
Yeah, I think we'll get some variability out of that one too. It should be exciting.
Yeah, they go from deathcore to like pop, like radio pop in a single song, and then like a whole entire EP of just electronic stuff. Oh god, yeah, they have a very varied selection.
All right. So I guess we're doing Bring Me the Horizon then. So we'll catch you next time. See ya.
Peace.